If you'd like to take your screen mode out of gallery mode, so you're out of the Brady Bunch view, and put yourself just on speaker mode, that'll make it a little bit easier and less distracting for yourself while you watch Jennifer and I chat. Go ahead. I see a bunch of you have already put yourself on mute and changed your screen from or turned off your camera. You're more than welcome to do that, or keep yourself up, whatever. I always love seeing a little audience member, so it helps me know that I'm doing good, asking good questions. Speaking of questions, if you have any questions at all for Jennifer during the interview, you're more than welcome. You can submit your questions to me 3 different ways. One, if you just want to pop it in the chat feature, which is on your right-hand side. If you don't already have it open, you can just use the toolbar at the bottom of the screen to open it up. Pop your question in there. We'll be chatting. Rochelle will probably be keeping up with stuff in there. So if you have questions or anything, just shoot them in there. If you feel brave and want to raise your hand or use a reaction button, you can go ahead and do that. So the reaction button is just like that, little corner up in the corner, so I'll see it and I'll call on you. And if you would prefer to not have your question asked during the recorded portion, which is the first 30 minutes, Jennifer will be staying for about 15 minutes afterwards to take some additional follow-up questions, so you can hold until then. But like I said, you're more than welcome to always put them into the chat feature, and I will grab them from there. And I think that is it. I think that's all of my little details that I have for you. And I want you guys to stay a little bit longer afterwards for my big announcement. We have we've been doing these events for the last, how long have we been in this pandemic? 6 months. So we've been doing these weekly book clubs for the last 6 months, and we are doing a big one in November called Readers and Ritas at Home. So I have announcements of some of our authors will be joining us. So I'd love to be able to announce that to you guys after we finish our chat with Jennifer. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and introduce our guest of honor, Jennifer Ashley. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. Just making sure.
So first off, I have to know who your friend is right there.
Yes, this is Sandy, and he's one of our cats, and we call him the natural disaster.
Oh my goodness, why?
Just has to, because he just has to be in everything, and I think we started calling him that because we had like this pile of linens and pillows on the bed, and he just kind of plowed right through them and knocked them all down. And because he's a big cat and he's very strong and very determined, so we call him the natural disaster. And he just always has to be right next to me when I'm with the computer. So.
Oh, I was gonna say, is he a mama's boy? Does he prefer you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, it depends. Time of day. He'll go back and forth.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much again for joining us. I know that we've got 3 different personalities that we could be talking to tonight. Yeah. So we'll be popping around and taking all different kinds of questions. But to get us started, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about yourself and how you started writing?
Okay. I'm Jennifer Ashley. I also write as Ashley Gardner and Allyson James. See, there's so many I can't even keep track. And I've been writing for a very long time. I first got published in 2002 with the historical romance as Jennifer Ashley. And about the same time, I sold a mystery series, the Captain Lacey Regency Mysteries, as Ashley Gardner. So I kind of came out as a dual personality almost right away. And I've been writing since then, and I've published by now about 100 or more books. In mystery, romance, and I've also gone into like urban fantasy and sci-fi romances, Allyson James. And I'm doing a lot of self-publishing now, although I'm still with Berkeley, especially with the Kat Holloway mystery series. But I'm publishing, I've got a series called Shifters Unbound, which is paranormal. I've got the Mackenzie series, which is historical. Captain Lacey Regency Mysteries, historical mystery. I've just started a new historical mystery series called Leonidas the Gladiators Mysteries, which is actually doing very well. So I'm very encouraged by that. But that's me.
Awesome. Well, and it's so interesting. I mean, how do you kind of keep all of your story? I mean, that's a very broad question, but how do you decide which ones are going to go with each name, or do you have like specific themes that you hit with each of your different pseudonyms?
Well, when I started, I took Ashley Gardner to do mysteries because at the time I was at two different publishers and they didn't want me to have the same name. And also Jennifer Ashley is more the romance, um, more romance with a lot of emotion, and it's kind of plot driven stories, but a lot of emotional things, and kind of hot too. Ashley Gardner is more mysteries, historical mysteries for now. I might do contemporary mysteries at some point, but historical mysteries, which are very, they're not sexy. The characters have relationships and things, but I don't do it on the page. And then Allyson James is kind of a little more out there into erotic romance, and also into fantasy romance. So I kind of like to keep them a little bit separate. Just so that when people know they pick up an Ashley Gardner book, what they're going to get, or an Allyson James or a Jennifer Ashley. Now, my publishers kind of threw that into a loop because they published this new mystery series as Jennifer Ashley because that's probably the more recognizable name to people who don't know anything about me. So that's kind of how that happened. And I can keep track because all the series and things are different. And so I don't really get them mixed up. And yeah, he's very demanding here.
I can see. He's a star. He understands.
Yeah. Yes. So I mean, I enjoy kind of writing the different things because it keeps me fresh. I can, if I'm, I've written a lot of historical romance, I can then switch to something else, and it kind of keeps me fresh and new stories coming and things like that.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting too that your historical mysteries and your historical romances were kind of like, they came out at the same time. So you were really definitely able to kind of use your research across the board. Yeah. Was
very helpful?
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the research that you did and how you picked the time periods that you wanted to cover in the books.
Oh, okay. I picked time periods by just what I'm interested in. I'm really fascinated. Like, I like the Regency because I always loved Jane Austen, and it's such an interesting period with the Napoleonic Wars, and the end of the 18th century and the beginning of the 19th was this huge period of change. So it's very fascinating, and there's a lot of things you can talk about. And I'm exploring that a lot in the Regency mysteries. There's all kinds of things that and I always try to think about, like, yacht clubs or something, how they started, things like that. I'm interested in the Victorian era, because to me it's very, very close to our own era, even though you wouldn't think so. But a lot of things they did and a lot of things that we take for granted right now were first starting right then, like telephones and elevators and cars and electricity and things like that. They all had their beginnings right there. These people were being very, very innovative. And photography too. And the history and science was just starting to become modern. So it's kind of an interesting transition to me. It's very dark time period, but it was also, there was just a lot going on. So it's very fascinating you can layers and layers and layers of history in the Victorian age. And I'm also really fascinated. I'm glad I started these gladiator mysteries because just ancient Rome, I just am so fascinated by it. I love the ancient world. And I went to Rome last year about this time, and I was just blown away by the ruins and Rome itself. It was just a wonderful place.
Was that where you were inspired when you went to Rome to write the series, or was it already sort of percolating and you're like, I gotta go and be there?
Yeah, it was in my head because for some reason for years I have just pictured this gladiator guy wandering the streets, like, solving crimes, because what else is he gonna do?
Yeah. Crimes are universal.
Yeah. So I made it a point last year. I went to Rome to do a book signing. And I made it a point I just made a plan to see all of the ancient history areas. And I was just like, I mean, it's everyone has to go. It's just fabulous.
Yeah, Rome is definitely on my visiting bucket list for sure.
Oh, yes.
Mostly because I just want to eat my way through the city.
Oh, yeah, that's good too. You won't regret it. It's wonderful.
So cool. Well, and now that just kind of spurred a new question for me. Where's been some of the most exciting places that you've gotten to go for book signings? I miss
Oh,
traveling. So now I just want to talk about traveling.
I know, I know. I'm the same way. Well, actually, I haven't been outside the United States much in signings, but last year I did a signing in London and I did a signing in Rome. But I've been all over the United States, and nothing is springing to mind right now. Because, yeah, going to London was great. I hear you talking about London, what your favorite spot was. And if you want to know my favorite spot,
I absolutely do.
okay, if you go to Mayfair and you go down South Audley Street, there's a church called Grosvenor Chapel, and you walk behind it, and there's this beautiful garden that's just kind of out of the way. It's very quiet. It's not filled with tourists. It's just lovely. And you can just sit back there. And actually, I've set a couple scenes in my books back there. Although before you didn't used to be a garden, it used to be a graveyard. So, but they've moved all the bodies and put them hopefully safely elsewhere, but I'm assuming.
Or they just took all those tombstones and put a tree over it and said, no one will ask questions.
They could have, but it's a lovely spot. So far, that's like my favorite spot, although the British Museum was pretty good too.
That's so cool. Did you know about that spot before you went, or did you kind of discover it while you were there?
Yeah, I knew it was there because I used it in a couple of books and I'd seen it on the maps. And so when I went, I said, okay, I got to go there. I did the Kat Holloway and Captain Lacey tour for myself. I went all the places and I actually took videos and stuff, which I have posted on my YouTube channel. So I knew it was there, but I wasn't quite sure what was back there now because I knew it had been a graveyard. So I went back there. It was just this lovely spot, and it was cool, and because it was kind of warm, so it was cool under the trees, and it was just lovely.
That sounds so wonderful. Well, I guess, guys, we're all going to London now. That's just what we're going to have to do.
You have to, yeah.
And I think that it's just such a cool idea too, to have like maybe a document of the tours that your readers can go on to see all the sites of your books.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, let's jump right into Murder in the East End, your latest release. It's
just a second. I see a question here. What is the name of the church?
What is the name of the church?
It's Grosvenor Chapel on South Audley Street. Okay, sorry.
So this is the fourth in the series.
Yes.
And Kat's really, she's kind of growing into her own at this point and really established herself as her own character. But I am curious to know what inspired the series, because that was our first question from one of our readers.
Okay. Oh, what inspired the series? Well, actually, I thought of this series a long, long time ago, like around 2002, 2003. I was writing the Captain Lacey series, and I was thinking, I love historical mysteries. I think they are the best genre ever. And I used to say, I'll read any mystery as long as it's historical. But so I was thinking, what else can I do in historical mystery that would be really cool? And I wanted to do something that involved a woman, had a woman as the main character instead of a man. And so I don't know, she just kind of popped into my head as this cook who is doing her thing below stairs and gets involved because, and it kind of appealed to me because people in the, hi
Sandy.
He's like, I'm bored. You're not paying attention. People in the servant class, they knew everything that was going on in these houses. They knew all the secrets because all the people in the houses just talk in front of the servants because they're kind of like appliances. They kind of treated them like that. You know, you have your vacuum cleaner. You don't keep secrets from your vacuum cleaner, you know, and when your vacuum cleaner is broken, you just get rid of it and get a new one. And that's kind of how they approach servants. So all those people would know everything. And then all the servants knew each other from house to house. So the gossip was just, you know, and for some reason, so a lot of these people who lived upstairs were going like, how does everyone know all this, you know? So I thought, oh, what a great sleuth, because she could just find out all this stuff. And so I wrote a little bit of it, just like a couple of chapters. And then I got really busy writing the romances. I just did not have time to pursue it. And I totally forgot about it. And then about 5 years ago, my house got flooded. the water heater broke and flooded the house, or part of the house.
Wow.
So we had to re-floor the entire house. So I was in the closet pulling out all this stuff to read, and I found this folder, and inside was the Kat Holloway story. And I said, oh, I really like this. So I went ahead and I typed it up and I continued it and wrote a novella, and I published it, and a lot of people really liked it. And then my publisher downloaded it and read it and said, oh, I really like this. And do you want to, and I was going to do the series, I was going to self-publish it, but then they offered to do it. And I said, okay. So that's kind of how that all came about.
I think you make such a good point about how fascinating it is for readers and for viewers to enjoy a character that is sort of like a wall fixture, like someone that is can seamlessly integrate themselves so well, and that makes for such an exciting, robust story, because like they're going to see so many other things that maybe a general inspector would never see.
Right. Exactly.
So let's see. So you said Victorian England, you love it because it does have this like sort of in the past, but also beginning of modernism. It's kind of easy to add modern twists into it and to kind of explain to readers what was going on in that time period. But I'm curious what elements of Victorian England are really important for you to stick into the series.
Oh, let's see. Well, I love the houses, the big houses and all that stuff inside. I love houses and decoration and furniture and architecture. I just love that. So you notice I always describe the houses a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important to me. Also, I like to add in like the science that was starting to go on, because they were just starting to realize about the speed of light and electromagnetism and things that would lead to Einstein. I mean, these are the precursors of Einstein. And so I have this character, Mr. Thanos, who is this brilliant mathematician. So he can kind of put in the science because he understands all this. And, you know, Kat Holloway will go, well, that's very nice, Mr. Thanos, you're very cute. But, you know, as he's going off on all this stuff. So that's really important. Also, I like to put in institutions that were big at the time, like in Murder in the East End, it's the Foundling Hospital. I just wrote book 5 and turned in, and I'm doing the Crystal Palace, which originated it was originally at Hyde Park, and then they dismantled it and moved it to the south of London, and that was really interesting to me. And I found like a pamphlet that from the time that it would go and describe everything that was there. So that was pretty cool. So I just like to, you know, things that were just really important, you know, and a lot of spots that aren't there anymore, because, you know, London in World War II was bombed quite a lot. So a lot of the places that I talk about aren't there anymore. So I like to do that too, is really recreate the London of the past.
Yeah, it keeps their history alive for a modern audience.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I'm gonna get into our rapid fire questions, which are just sort of fun. But since I want to start off with one that's kind of silly, but what is Kat's favorite meal to cook? What do you think is her favorite meal to cook?
Oh, that's a good question. Because she likes to do things that are not like really weird with weird ingredients, but she likes to do kind of grand things that are, you know, like a roast with all the vegetables and the things like that. She also loves sweet, so she likes making cakes and tarts and puddings and things. So I'm not quite sure what her favorite meal would be, but actually I think it's something that she creates by herself, you know, based on her recipes, but she's really puts her own creative, and it comes out beautifully. I think that's her favorite dish right there.
That's awesome. Okay, so now switching to Jennifer Ashley. What is your favorite trope to read?
Oh, trope to read. There's so many. I like let's see. I like the the fake engagement, the pretend engagement. I really like that. Or the marriage of convenience. I like that one too. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was two.
Oh, that's okay. You can have multiples. It's fine. Okay. And then what is your favorite trope to write?
Oh, gosh. Well, I don't know. I like to write so many things. Oh, I'm on the spot. I'm like, I don't know. I like to write the pretend engagement, or actually, I will say, the second chance romance, where people have been apart and now they get to come back together, and kind of like Mac and Isabella and Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage. I really enjoyed writing that book.
Awesome. I too am a huge fan of second chance romances. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
People need, sometimes they need a little time to mature and proof and
Yeah.
rise and stuff
Yeah.
before they're ready for a relationship.
Exactly.
Okay, so 3 things that you always have on you.
3 things. Let's see.
Mhm.
Bottle of water, because I live in the desert and I'm always thirsty.
Gotta stay hydrated.
Yes, probably my phone, because we can't go anywhere without that. And usually a book. If I'm not reading a book on my phone, I'm reading a book in my hand.
Do you prefer physical books, or are you mostly e or audio?
I don't do a lot of audio, but I I go back and forth between print and e. Like if I read an ebook, the next I'll read a print book. I like to have a print book because I see it and I go, okay, I want to pick it up and read it. And on ebooks, sometimes I'll forget what I've got. But the beauty of ebooks is, like, I can carry 1,000 ebooks, in my hand, especially traveling. That's really great. So I really like both. I really don't have a preference. Some days I'm just in the print mood, and some days I'm in the e mood.
Yeah. In this specific case, it's just about the book. Sometimes it's just whatever.
Yeah, it's just about the book. Yeah.
Okay, so your first book, boyfriend or girlfriend?
Oh. uh, 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 I really cannot remember. I'm not sure. Sorry, I have to
That's
pass.
okay. That's fine. Let's see. What is your favorite writing fuel?
Writing fuel, as in food and drink?
Sure. Yep.
Or
Or you're like deadline.
Well, yeah, that too. Iced tea. I
Sweet
drink a
or
lot of iced
unsweet?
tea. Unsweetened, and I use loose leaf tea, and I buy, exotic loose leaf teas, and I have a cupboard that will last me like 3 years already. So
That's awesome. That's the way to be. I'm constantly looking for a tea caddy to organize all my teas with. So.
Oh yeah, I need that. I have a cupboard.
Exactly. Mine's like all just like, if you open it, they all just sort of fall out. It's very embarrassing every time. So now we get to the, what are you reading, watching, and listening to question?
Okay. What I'm reading right now, I just finished reading a book. It was like a memoir of a guy who'd lived in Germany, a British guy who lived in Germany, and I had lived in Germany as well. So it was kind of like a nostalgic. And today I started Neil deGrasse Tyson, Physics for People in a Hurry.
Are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, first chapter was good. So that's what I'm reading. Listening to, I usually don't listen to audiobooks, so it's mostly music. And then we've been watching the Murdoch Mysteries, which is getting weird. If anybody watches that show, they're probably going, uh-huh.
I have not watched the Murdoch Mysteries in forever, but yeah, that show it's slow burn a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so then my last rapid fire question for you is, what is one historical mystery that you always recommend to a reader?
Oh, no, I'm blanking. See, I should always write these down because I blank out on these. Oh.
And I'm no help because I never send the questions in advance.
Because I love historical mysteries, so like any of them. But I'll say one that I have read recently. And it's called The Frangipani Tree Mystery by Ovidia Yu. And you're going to ask me to spell that. It's Ovidiayu is her name. And it's I can't spell frangipani, I'm sorry. Frangipani, the second book is called The Betel Nut Tree Mystery. It's a little easier to spell. But it's set in Singapore in the 1930s. And it's in the point of view of a Singaporean woman in the 1930s. And it's just, she did a wonderful job. Well, she is from Singapore, so she would know. But it was just really good. That's a wonderful historical mystery series. And I started the first one, and I'm going to read the others too. So.
That's so cool. Are you able to read within your genre while you're writing?
Yes, I am. You know, a while ago when I first started, I didn't, because I was so really afraid of like channeling someone else's thoughts or words or something. I was really paranoid about that. But now that I've kind of developed, I'm very comfortable in my own style, my own ideas, and I'm very experienced writer now that I've written 100 books.
Right.
So now I can read anything, which is really nice, because I went for years where I struggled to read anything, and it was very depressing because I love to read. I grew up reading. So now I'm really happy that I just read book after book after book. It's so nice.
Were you one of those writers who, when you were a kid, you wrote your first book in like first or second grade?
Yeah, I think I was 8 years old, and it wasn't quite a book. I think I was writing plays or something, but yeah, I always wrote. I wrote, you know, to entertain myself. And I always had this idea that one day I'll be a real writer with, you know, I'll go in the library and I'll see my own book, you know, so I always had that idea, but I knew I wasn't ready. I mean, I knew that what I wrote was like not publishable at all, but I still enjoyed it, and I had strange ideas, and I liked, you know, like fantasy, science fiction, and I wrote a lot of that when I was younger.
What was that experience like for you when you did get to walk into that library and see your name on a book for the first time?
It was awesome. It was like, yes, I did this, you know, because I really never thought it would happen to me. I never, ever, I got so many rejections. I never thought I would actually be successful at this at all. So I hope that inspires other people who want to write. I mean, I had no idea. I really thought I was going to be a hopeful writer the rest of my life, but you know, I did it. So
yeah. And 100 books later, you're still doing it and you still enjoy
I
it.
still am. Yes, I do.
So what can readers expect next? Because I know you've got lots of books coming up.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, I just turned in the book 5 of the Kat Holloway series. I don't know when that's going to be published yet. They haven't told me. The next thing coming out is a Captain Lacey mystery, The Custom House Murders, and that's out in November. That I'm doing Shifters Unbound, and that's already on pre-order. It's going to be the story of Ben, who's kind of been a secondary character in a lot of the books. That's called The Last Warrior, and that's out, I think, in February. Then after that, I'm going to do another Leonidas the Gladiator, and book 2. And then I'm going to go back to the Mackenzies, and I'm still debating which Mackenzie I'm going to do next, but it'll be one of them. And probably get back into some of my contemporary romances as well. I'm just kind of rotating through all my series, so I have a lot of series. So, so it does take me a little bit to get to them all, but I do it eventually.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you have so many series is something I think readers really, really appreciate. Keep us busy for sure.
Yeah. Keeps me busy too.
Well, Jennifer, before we go to our follow-up questions and off record version, how can readers find out more about you and stay in touch with you?
Okay. My website is the one-stop place for everything. It's jenniferashley.com. And from there you can click on my, Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads, BookBub, everything there. You can also sign up for my newsletter, which I send out when I've got announcements of, books on pre-order, books being released, or, anything I think a reader would be interested in hearing about what's coming up and things like that.
Awesome. Well, great.
So jenniferashley.com.
Perfect. Okay, well, great. Well, Jennifer, thank you again so much for sticking around and taking questions with us. We really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and record the right now. And we will, let's see.